Let's go to my friend Danny Segura. Danny, do your parents watch this show?
Sometimes, yeah.
Are they going to?
My parents barely speak English and they watch the show.
Well, my family speaks fluent English and they don't. So there you go. That tells you about why I'm perpetually sad about my existence and why you're a very chipper kid. Hug your children, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's move on from this one. Let's get to it. The calls, sir. Now, yesterday was weird because you and I were kind of waiting to solicit the calls until the event was over. But I got a bunch of people who hit me up when I got up this morning being like, oh, I submitted a call. Don't forget. What do you say?
Yeah, the calls came in. A lot of them came in early this morning. I'm guessing, the fights finished kind of late, yesterday. And I guess people wanted to go straight to bed. Some people had to work today. So, they chose to call early in the morning.
All right.
So yeah, but we did get a good batch, so we'll be playing those.
All right, set them up, sir. High energy. Let's see it.
Yeah, dude, I'm on 3 hours of sleep, so
bro.
By the way, something that I feel very passionate about, which you brought up, the Vox Media coffee, man.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
What are they doing?
It's trash. I don't know, but I've actually talked about this for a while. I'm like, what? How can you have a media company and have coffee this bad?
Hold on, here's the deal. The coffee in DC is so good.
Really?
Yeah, it's just the one here that's bad.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. But yeah, being Colombian and being spoiled with good coffee, man, it's just makes it rough.
Can't go back.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, let's get. I think the biggest controversy. There's so much controversy.
There was a lot
this weekend. It was kind of weird, but the biggest one was probably Cain, knee, uppercut. Who knows?
Yes.
So let's talk about it.
All right.
Hey, Luke, how you doing? This is Ram calling from South Florida. I just wanted to ask you. I just finished hearing the press conference, and Cain, right off the bat mentioned that he didn't feel any punches, that pretty much he didn't get hit, and that it was just his knee buckled, and he took his toll, he fell down, whatever it is. I wanted to know if that's how you guys saw it. I thought there might have been, a little bit of a contact on the right uppercut. Nonetheless, I don't think it was a clean TKO, anything like that, but I think it does make a difference. And aside from that, I personally felt like Courtney Casey got robbed against Calvillo. Calvillo fought a good fight. She showed a lot of movement, but I did think Courtney won 2 out of the 3 rounds and managed to put more damage on her.
Okay.
Big fan of the show. Okay. Hope you guys get me.
Thank you. Appreciate the call. Thank you. So let's parse that a little bit here.
Yeah.
I kind of gave my initial impression. You saw some of the footage on the Monday Morning Analyst. What is your sense of what happened in that main event?
When I saw it in real time, I was like, oh my God, Francis Ngannou's a beast. This man is scary. I mean, the way he landed those punches, the way he was moving, he just looks like a scary dude. And Cain Velasquez is he's not a big heavyweight, but nonetheless, he's always been able to, even against Brock, he was able to impose his strength.
He's not a small fry either.
Yeah. And and the way Ngannou was just moving around him, I'm like, whoa, this is quite crazy. And I thought he got clipped, and that's what it was. And then people were saying he didn't even get punched. Everybody was replying. I tweeted something out, and I was getting a bunch of crazy replies. So I'm like, okay, maybe I did jump the gun in this comment. Maybe I should wait to see the replay.
You saw what I put up on the Monday Morning Analyst.
Yeah, of course. But I'm saying on Sunday.
Yeah, last night in real time. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then I'm like, maybe I jumped the gun. So then I waited till the replay, and the replay just confirmed what I thought. I don't think Cain was out. I mean, clearly he's not out because when he falls back, he kind of screams in pain a little bit. So, you have to obviously be aware to do that. But, I mean, his head snapped back from that uppercut. It's not like Francis threw something and then nothing happened. His head snapped back, and then he kind of just fell. And I've seen that play out so many times. I think probably the one that I remember the most, or a good example, would be Hensel Gracie getting clipped, I think, by Dan Henderson coming in with an uppercut.
Yep.
You're like, wait, what happened? Wait, how did he get knocked out? But dude, it landed. So yeah, I think, dude, Ngannou landed, connected, dropped him, slightly, just enough to get his legs underneath him, and then unfortunately, injury happened.
Here's the thing: do I think it hurt Cain? No. Do I think
slightly?
Well, when I say hurt, I mean like, that I feel pain. Like if you get knocked out, you don't feel any pain.
Right. Yeah.
So when I say pain, I mean like,
okay, yeah,
like I'm conscious of the discomfort.
Right.
Not do I remember it? So here's the thing: he was on adrenaline. This is his first time back. People were screaming his name. It clearly made contact with him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like the foot just slipped out of nowhere. It made contact, and it was only a problem when the weight began to quickly descend underneath him. Do I think that Cain being on adrenaline felt it like it hurt him? No. Do I think Cain being on adrenaline maybe even remembered it? Probably not. Dude, the tape doesn't lie.
Yeah.
It did make contact with him. Now, here's the thing. Remember when he finally rolled over and you could see him writhing in agony and holding his knee? He looked to be all there with it.
Yeah.
It was a flash knockdown. That's all it was. It was a flash knockdown. So like did Francis bludgeon him, and then he was out, and then he, it was one of those clean TKOs? No. But it clipped him, it hurt him. Again, hurt in the cognitive sense.
Yes.
And he dropped, his knee gave out, and then that was the end of the fight. So it's a combination of Francis having the most terrifying power I think I've ever seen, but it wasn't a full-on shot. But it was enough to cause enough problems where then the joint integrity of his knee gave out. I made this point last night. How about Mirko Krokop? Now, he got knocked all the way out when he fought Gabriel Gonzaga. Remember his foot got twisted underneath?
Yeah, it looked ugly.
So go back and look at what Herb Dean did. The first thing Herb Dean did when he stopped the fight was pull up Mirko's leg so it would unwind back into normal position. Sometimes when these guys fall, they fall at awkward angles. That was the different one. He went all the way out.
Yeah. And
it was my only point is I'll wrap up here. It was a miniature version of that.
Yeah, and you made a great point about it on your post fight like special. I got to tune into it for a bit. Where it was like once you get clipped and your legs go under you, there's no technical fall like you do in jiu-jitsu or anything like that.
Yeah.
You just fall wherever you're at,
Yeah.
And it just so happened to be that he was kind of shooting for the shot, so it was just bad luck, terrible luck.
It sucks. I feel bad for Cain because if you're Cain, you're like, I could have. Cain didn't think he got hit. Okay, he did, but that was a recoverable shot if he doesn't get injured, because then he can just dive on a leg.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's like, did Francis knock him out? Well, partly, but also there was bad luck because he really could have recovered from that and didn't get the chance by virtue of the knee issue. I think that's the issue for me.
And this is no Cejudo Dillashaw either. It's not like, like for that one, it's like, all right, well, he was already really hurt. Like Cain looked, he was a little hurt, but he looked like we've seen guys get out of that millions of times. So especially, he has a great chin. So he probably could have fought out of that, maybe.
Okay, what's next?
All right. Let's talk about the loss and what it does to Cain's reputation.
Yeah, hey, this is Josh calling from Long Beach. My question is, going into this fight, Cain Velasquez was billed as one of the greatest heavyweights in MMA. I'm just wondering if after this most recent loss to Ngannou, if that changes anything at all for Cain as far as, the way he's looked at. Thank you.
So here's my thought on this one. I've been thinking about this a little bit, and my opinion might change over time. First of all, let's see how injured he is and how quickly he can come back. I think that's a big component of this, number one. Number two, what I would say is if he can come back and add additional wins to his resume, then you have to not jump. I just don't want to jump the gun, because it's two different questions if he calls it a career today versus if he gets 5 more wins and becomes champion again. These are so radically different and still possible. It's hard to know. Here's what I do think he's in jeopardy of doing. If he does not really get back to what he was before, if he either calls it quits or can't get another real big win against somebody of note, then the wins he has will be a function merely of his era rather than some kind of transcendent resume. And those are not insignificant. That's still really big. But rather than being one of the best heavyweights ever, he would just be one of the best heavyweights of that time. And you could say there could have been the potential for more, but injuries derailed him, and that would be a real thing. Cain Velasquez gets injured more in fights than just about anyone I've ever seen. A lot of people get injured in training. Dominic Cruz gets injured in training, not in fights. Cain Velasquez is the exact opposite. He tore his rotator cuff and his labrum in the Brock Lesnar fight. Here he tears his knee or whatever happened with his knee in this one. So to me, it's a question of we still have to see what's out there. But if he doesn't make a real move in this next chapter, then no, you simply cannot call him that.
Yeah, it's definitely a setback. And going into this fight, as the caller mentioned, like it was all about like, is Cain the GOAT? What can he do in these next few years? Can he solidify his position as the GOAT? This has to be a setback. And, especially with the knee, if maybe it would have been, something else. But again, as you said, the story's still yet to be, written on Cain Velasquez. We'll see how he bounces back. But I mean, it was a setback for sure. We'll see what happens.
Not just a setback; it could be defining. We just don't know.
Yes,
we just
exactly.
don't know.
Exactly.
You know?
Like this is the fork in the road. It could go.
That's right.
It could go either way.
That's exactly correct.
Really go either way.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess it's just wait and see at this point. All right. Well, we talked about the fight. Let's talk about what's next for both guys.
Hi there, Danny and Luke. This is Cole, a New Yorker calling from Italy. I think a lot. I want to ask about Francis Ngannou's victory. I think a lot is going to be made about his crazy hand speed and power and how he knocked out Cain Velasquez with what seemed like a 2-inch uppercut. But I wanted to ask you about his mental strength. And if you've seen any fighter be so honest about being afraid, the impact a loss has had, and actually be able to come back. You know, I've read articles about not lies fighters have to tell themselves to stay mentally fit, but it seems like Francis Ngannou was totally honest with himself and his own assessment of his mentality and has come out stronger for it. I'm sure it helps when you're a 250-pound man to retain that confidence, but do you know any other fighters who have been so honest about being afraid in the ring and being in such a dark place and having come back so strong?
Sure.
Love the show. Happy to hear what you think.
Yeah, so I lied. This is not about what's next, but sort of about Francis Ngannou's comeback, because a lot of people were writing him off, and it seemed like he was kind of done in a lot of people's minds. And here he is on a 2-fight win streak.
Well, even I was a little bit concerned. He just didn't know if he was done. But
I mean, there was the comments that you heard rumors, and Dana White says what he said to the media about his
well,
psyche.
I mean, I don't put any stock in that. But here's what I did see. He loses that 5-round fight to Stipe Miocic, and it reminded me of the beating that David Loiseau took against Rich Franklin. Now, David Loiseau did get wins after that and is a credible, talented, and a martial artist who should be respected. But as a fighter, he was never the same after that loss. I don't mean that to be disparaging. I can only call the facts as I see them, and that one is pretty clear. If you take a prolonged beating in a situation you're not prepared for, not always, but very often, it can alter a person. Stephen Mako, in the documentary about Iowa wrestling before he became an Olympic wrestler and before he became a fighter and trainer, was asked why he likes wrestling, and he said he liked to abuse his competitors to the point where he changed their personality, where they became different people. Now he's a psychotic man, which I say also,
that's some psycho stuff.
But that's what can happen if you get that kind of Steve Mako guy on top of you. So Stipe goes in there and just beat on the guy for 5 rounds, and you have to ask yourself, is this really a good idea? Then comes back out of that and has an absolutely dreadful showing against Derek, and not just a dreadful showing, he didn't throw. The telltale sign when somebody is done, typically, not always, but typically, is that they don't throw. They are scared to engage, and you're like, wow, that is a bad sign. Then he gets out there against Curtis Blades and wiped all of that away, and it was only 45 seconds, but he was proactive, stuffing takedowns, landing in short range. You're like, that's not much, but that's good. He did the exact same thing here. Look, people treat acknowledging vulnerabilities as a weakness. That's the dumbest thing in the world. If your arm is broken and you go to the doctor, you don't pretend your arm isn't broken. Nothing gets better. You say, my arm is broken. I would like to seek treatment about it. Your mind can play tricks on you. People think your mind just needs to be steeled all the time, and there is a moment for that. Your mind cannot learn to steel itself unless it learns to overcome its vulnerabilities. You cannot overcome vulnerabilities long-term unless you acknowledge they exist and then seek to tackle them. I applaud Francis for doing that. George St. Pierre was another one who did the exact same. Of course he was terrified. Of course he was scared. It just didn't stop him. That's what courage is.
Yeah, it's amazing the comeback. And regarding what I said about Dana's comments, it was that plus the performances plus his own comments as well that made you wonder, like, oh, wow, is he still in this? Was that loss like career defining? But he said it. He's like, I got surprises for you guys in his post-fight interview. And dude, I'm excited. It seems like he's back, and he might not, regardless of whether how good he's gone in the wrestling, what matters is that the dude is not gun shy, as you mentioned.
Correct.
The dude is going in there to knock you out, and essentially that's what's got him so far, up to this point. So
just consider this: he only needed to stuff 1 takedown, maybe 2 attempts against Blades, and you can say what you want about the stoppage, but he clearly had him hurt.
Yeah.
And here again, you can say what you want about the injury. Sorry, he had Cain hurt. Whether Cain wants to acknowledge it or not, or remembers it or not, the tape shows what it shows. Dude, he needs, Force equals mass times acceleration, right? That's the physics principle.
That doesn't apply to Francis Ngannou.
It does. It does. Here's
What?
the difference. Do you remember Bruce Lee used to do? I one time saw this documentary about Bruce Lee, and it talked about a scientist watching him do the 1-inch punch. So he would line up with someone like this and to put his chest 1 inch from his fist, and he would like flinch his whole body, and it would knock the guy all the way into the seat. Now you've seen all these like hokey martial arts demonstrations, but that's not what it was. The physicist was like, "Oh, I don't know what this is." But look, force equals mass times acceleration. If he can accelerate his body enough where the mass he packs in his hands can reach the force it needs, yes, it is physically possible.
Yeah.
Dude, who is the real master of the 1-inch punch? Francis. Francis is the inheritor of the Bruce Lee 1-inch punch.
He won't just sit you down on a chair. He'll knock you out to another dimension.
And he only needs that much space to do it. Holy shit, dude.
It's scary.
How do you defend against that?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's and dude, this just speaks volumes to how good Stipe is, right? I mean,
Remember his head getting whipped a few times? Whack, you know? And also, how hard does Cormier hit that he laid him out that fast?
Yeah. Heavyweight Cormier is a real
Dude,
thing.
it's like there's so many. I mean, people have been saying, I don't know if you have any questions to this effect. Do you have any questions about Cormier versus Francis?
Not yet, but about what's next for both.
All right, so I'll save it for that. But like Cormier versus Francis, your boy is chips in the middle, buddy.
Yeah.
All
Same here.
in.
Take my money. All right, so let's talk about that actually. So here goes.
Hi Luke, just like to say I'm Josh from UK. Yeah, loving the show. Yeah, just wanted to ask what you think now that happened last night between Francis Ngannou and Cain Velasquez. What you think is next for both of them, really. I personally think a rematch with Stipe would make sense before he goes for the title. But yeah, thanks again. I look forward to listening to the show again. Cheers.
There we are. All right.
Thanks for the call, first of all.
Yes.
International callers.
Shouts to the UK.
Yep.
I would say for both. Well,
Dude, are you about that Ngannou-Stipe rematch? I'm not. At least not now. I mean, sure, it's a fine fight, but...
okay, so tell me why you're against it.
Well, because I just think this whole time we've been talking about, Cormier and, Brock and Stipe, and that was sort of the equation, right? And Jones, too. He's definitely a player in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
But Ngannou, man, he just snuck into that race, and I feel like he's a live horse here. I mean, there's a storyline here, defending the heavyweight title against Francis Ngannou, right? One of the biggest heavyweights, DC not being the bigger heavyweight, avenging his buddy's loss, Cain Velasquez. I think there's a storyline there. Plus, dude, you beat Cain Velasquez and you beat Curtis Blades. That to me is enough to grant you a title shot. So I'm all for it. Meanwhile, Francis Ngannou fought for the title, right? Mm-hmm. And then since then, he got back on the horse. He fought Derek Lewis, a very boring fight, but then got 2 victories. He's been active. Stipe, on the other hand, and I respect Stipe a lot, and I think he's a fantastic fighter. And I think he's one of the best heavyweights out there. But since he's been sitting out, so I think at this point, who's more deserving? Dude, a win over Cain Velasquez does a lot. So I don't know. I'd love to see that Ngannou DC fight.
To be candid with you, I think you make great points. There's just a part of me that feels like if we saw another Stipe versus Francis fight, and it's just a hunch, and that's worth not much.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like the fight. There's a part of my brain that's telling me it's going to be different the second time. Really? Could be totally wrong. I can't prove that to you. You know what I mean? Someone's like, I don't agree. What am I supposed to say?
Right.
But I don't know. I got a weird feeling about that one.
All right, Stipe Ngannou or DC Ngannou?
One's a fresh matchup, so I would go with DC.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't hate if they did the Stipe rematch, to be honest with you. I hear your points. Fair.
I wouldn't hate it either.
I'm with you. I prefer DC.
Yes.
But yeah, dude, I'd be all right with it. All right with it.
If DC wants to sit out, and fight, Brock Lesnar and wait for that fight, I'm totally fine. And then make, Stipe Ngannou #1 contender.
All right.
Totally cool with that. But I mean, Ngannou has my attention. So, yeah. All right, let's switch gears a bit and let's go to, Bellator.
Okay.
Tons to talk about there.
All right.
Yo, what's up, Luke? My name is Daniel McNamara. Just call me Danny Mac. And I'm calling from Minnesota. And my question is to all the MMA fans who are just complaining about Paul Daley, wrestling MVP. I mean, it was pretty obvious to me that Daley was outgunned on the feet. I mean, do you want to get him to get knocked out, highlight real style like Cyborg did with a flying knee? I mean, you guys are all complaining about it, but anyway, Luke, I just want to hear what you thought. I thought the fight was all right, for what it was. Wasn't very technical, but Daley did the smart thing. And then peace out. Have a good day, guys.
The problem with the fight was that you're right. And again, I don't know why. I love Chael, but he was like, "Oh, he won't shoot." I'm like, dude, it's highly likely he shoots.
Dude, I didn't see that coming, to be honest.
Really? Dude, on my radio show, I went over this in detail. Paul Daley's takedown defense is decent, and his offensive takedowns are a little bit better. He actually has them when he needs them. And you got to think, well, like, who against that does he need? Other wrestlers? Well, no.
Yeah.
Other strikers, maybe, including confusing ones that are doing all the stuff that he was doing. And so to me, that was entirely predictable. I saw that coming a mile away.
Yeah.
The issue was, for me, he had to do so much of it that he was just so far past what he's normally good at.
Yeah.
Like a couple of takedowns, and if he could have held them for longer, fine. But he had to keep going back to the well, and it was just too much of an ask outside of his core competencies. And that ultimately was the problem and why it kind of slowed the fight down and did what it did. So I didn't mind. Again, look, man, promoters try. They try to put on the fights that everybody wanted to see.
That's all they can do.
Everybody wanted to see this. You cannot fault Bellator for that. But what you can say is if you've got these guys who are in a position where this far into their career, they have to resort to other parts of their game, and those other parts of their games are not really well developed, it causes problems. That's the issue for me.
Yeah. All in all, I didn't think it was a bad fight. I just think there was so much expectation.
I agree.
That it didn't live up, that people were saying, yo, this fight totally sucked. But I didn't think it was a bad fight. I mean, it was competitive. It was back and forth.
It wasn't a good
And
fight.
there wasn't a clear winner until the very end, which, that always draws some interest.
Yeah, but
right?
It wasn't like you didn't leave going, wow, that was...
No, but I mean,
Right.
dude, we've seen fights that are way worse than that.
Yeah, true.
Way worse than that.
True.
But I didn't see it coming. I thought Daley, I know Daley's a vet, but man, like for example, fighting Nick Diaz at his own game, like Daley's one of those guys that like he'll not back down. If you're down to scrap, he's down to scrap. So I thought he was gonna play a little more. I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me to see a takedown here and there, but the amount of time he spent wrestling, that's when I was like, whoa. I did not see that coming, and he was pretty good actually. He got several takedowns, so he was.
Yeah, but like even then, he wasn't setting him up with strikes a lot of times. He was just diving.
Yeah.
Luke, could you do better? No, I would do significantly worse. But if we're just talking about what's the highest standard look like, the question is how far from that are we? And there was some considerable distance. Ben Askren, of course. Oh my God, you see Ben Askren on Twitter on Saturday night? I mean,
dude, that man's Twitter is always on fire.
Ben, no chill Askren, boy. Dude, he will if your wrestling is not up to snuff, boy, he will let you know about it. And again, you have to take that with a grain of salt too. But he does make a point that's like, we're talking about people in the tournament. The wrestling's got to be a little bit better if you're going to rely on it. Anyway, it's just a point to consider.
All right, one more.
I got time for a couple more.
Right.
My life is a series of just races
hey, what's
all
going
around
on,
New York
guys?
City.
My name's Alex, and I'm calling out of Stockton, California.
Oh, shit.
I just wanted your thoughts on Krone Gracie's UFC debut. He looked really good, and I was just wondering what you thought might be next for him. He said he wants somebody in the top 10. Could you even see someone as high as maybe Brian Ortega? I think that'd be definitely a fun fight. I just wanted your thoughts on that. Thanks, guys.
Let me just put it to you this way. On the ground, he has no peer in that division. Ryan Hall is probably good enough.
Probably the closest.
And to the point where, when I say no peer, I mean the level of difference between Krone and Ryan is so small that you and I wouldn't be able to detect. People want to see that fight. What a terrible idea that is.
Really? I'm about it.
You are going to see a fight that you don't want to see. If it goes to the ground, they will negate each other. It will not be filled with scrambles. And Ryan Hall will do everything he can to be on his feet and kick at range. That is the worst idea ever.
Really?
Yes.
Terrible. I'm still down to see it. I'm all for bad ideas.
All right, fair enough. Here's the thing. Anybody where Krone can body lock with them and then get to the ground, they're all dead.
I mean, the thing with Krone Gracie is like, if you kind of pair him up against a striker that, has all right takedown defense, like we kind of know how that's going to go, I feel like. Now with Ryan Hall, I feel like Ryan Hall is pretty good on the ground and might be able to just fight him off.
He's a lot better than pretty good. He's amazing.
He's really good, yeah. And he might just be able to fight him off just enough, and he has way more experience fighting MMA. That that might sort of leap over, and then we might see something interesting there. So I'm kind of about it.
Here's the thing. Anybody who is a good fighter in the featherweight division that has a good jab and good clinch breaking skills.
That's what you want to see.
No, that guy's going to give Krone problems.
Yeah.
Do Krone stand up is literally, and this is intentional. Like, I think he would tell you it's intentional. When you're doing that leg raising thing and diving in, dude, Hoist was doing that in UFC 1.
Hickson was big on that.
That is how they train. Somebody who's going to be who has a good jab and good movement and can clinch break, dude, they're going to, if that's the way he fights, they're going to chew him up a little bit. And I'm not trying to be a hater. I don't know how you can look at that and think otherwise.
Yeah.
So I would pair him up with somebody who gets incrementally tougher. Let's see somebody who can fight off a couple of takedowns, make him work for it. Because we kind of know once it gets to the ground, bro, you don't have a prayer, So let's see somebody who does on the feet.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on him like wanting to like jump at the top 5 or like the top 10? Like he wants a real high level opponent. I thought the Alex Katzers was great to get him started in the UFC, and he kind of wasn't okay with that. He was saying like Cub Swanson or something like that. Like that's up there.
Here's what I would say. You ever seen Inglourious Bastards?
Yeah, of course.
Do you remember Brad Pitt's character?
Yep.
I forget his name. Captain, what was it? God, what was his name? Captain. I'm looking it up here.
All right, Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Hold on. I want to look up his name because this is the best part. I got it here. Hold on here. Oh, God damn it. Here we go.
Let me see.
Hold on. I got it here. I got it.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Aldo Rain.
Yeah.
Like, I'm Lieutenant Aldo Rain. And I'm not comparing these people to Nazis. That's not what I'm saying. But there was one scene where someone was like talking about this guy wants to die for his country. And he's like, oblige him. My attitude is if he wants to fight guys, top 5, no, because those guys deserve to be working for title opportunities.
Yeah.
But top 15, top 10, oblige him. I would want to see how that looks.
Honestly, and it's kind of part of the Gracie brand. Like,
exactly.
You really want to see him get built up? Nah, just throw him in there again.
Dude, you're not doing anything to Krone that he doesn't want. He said he wants someone who's going to go after him. Try to kill him is what he said.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Oblige him.
Yeah, but definitely an interesting addition, fun one to that division.
All right, one more.
All right, pick. So you want to talk about Holloway, Ferguson rumors, or what's next for Aljamain Sterling? Also, top prospects of the weekend.
No, let's do Holloway and Tony F.
Cool. Let's address that.
Hey, Luke and Danny. This is Marcus calling from San Diego. I was wondering what you guys make of these Holloway Ferguson 236 rumors. And also, is there any word on where this thing is going to take place, UFC 236? Thanks a lot. Keep up the great work. Goodbye.
That was good. That was a nice high energy, right?
He hangs up like my dad does. Goodbye. I don't know anything about what 236 is going to be. I don't think that they know anything.
Yeah, no, they haven't.
All right. Here's the thing about that. First of all, let me just make a point. I've been trying to get. I'm going to pull back the curtain here a little bit. I've been trying to get Tony Ferguson on this show, and we got close once, but there's a reason why he doesn't do interviews. No one can get him.
Yeah.
And so let me just put this out.
A few other key lightweight players want to go on the show, but nobody wants to talk yet until there's some sort of.
Oh no. Here's the thing. Let me just put this out here. Be respectful. Put the camera on me, please, back there in the boys. I want to make a plea to our listeners. If you guys want to see Tony Ferguson on the MMA Hour, I am even willing to go and fly to Oxnard, wherever he is, and film him at his gym. I have told him this, okay? If you guys want to see Tony Ferguson either in that capacity or on Skype on the MMA Hour, respectfully, kindly tweet him. Let him know. Let him know that this is the place for him to talk, because I've been wanting to talk to him since the Pettis win. We were supposed to get him on, he got the time wrong, and we haven't been able to get him back on since. I have such respect for Tony Ferguson. I want to see him on the show, and I need your help to convince him to come on. So please tweet him or Instagram him. Be respectful, be kind, but encourage him to do it. Now, to answer the question about what the guy was saying, look, man, I am all in on a Tony Ferguson, Max Holloway fight.
Can't hate on it.
It's impossible to dislike. Dude, you cannot do that to Dustin Poirier. You cannot do that. It is so unfair to do that. I, of course, would love to see Tony Ferguson fight Max. Are you kidding me? The dreams come true. But at some level, you gotta pay people what they are owed. And dude, Dustin Poirier has been out there thugging it in that 155-pound division. He is owed either an interim opportunity, a number one contender opportunity, something clear, definable, and it needs to be now.
Yeah. If what you're doing is an interim title, I think Ferguson versus Dustin Poirier is the way to go. Those two are the most deserving contenders at the moment. If Holloway wants to come up to 155, I'd love to see him get a fight before he actually gets a title shot. So, dude, Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, heck, even the Anthony Pettis rematch at 155, Cowboy Cerrone, you name it. Holloway versus anybody is a fun fight. So the UFC doesn't really have to worry about that. But I do think it's a little extra to put him up in an interim title fight against Ferguson when you got so many deserving guys, especially Dustin Poirier out there. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and by the way, Volkanovski needs an opportunity at somebody big, and other guys at featherweight. Dude,
there are. Yeah, he's got contenders down there.
Keep it normal for just a little bit longer. A little bit longer. All right, man. I don't have time anymore because I have to go do my other job. But you did a great job this whole weekend. I know you're tired as balls. I am too. Cafe will keep us alive, my friend.
Yes,
it really will. Good job, and thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right.